What is up, everybody? My name is Tiara. You may also know me as your friendly neighborhood IT girl. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get your master's degree from WGU in one term. And in this video, I'm going to address, what comes with that. Is it worth it? Is it possible? Is it impossible? Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it what is the deal with getting degrees in one term? Is that a real degree even? Because that's a question. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a mug of something steamy, because I'm about to spill some piping hot tea here, y'all. So before we dive into everything, today's video is kindly sponsored by study.com. It's an online learning platform, and I always talk about how to pregame your education, which is one of the fastest ways you can get through college. Study.com actually has a college transfer program. They offer over 300 courses, 33 of which are in the computer science area. So you can easily get knowledge, get information for your classes, and then have transferable credit to go to WGU, which I wish I had done so I could get rid of a couple more classes before I started, and a myriad of other schools you can easily choose from. They have classes in all the main areas, including Java, network security. Right now I'm taking a course on ancient Egypt, and I am trying to get better at my Spanish. Merienda means snack. Yo soy una merienda. Now, all the courses are flexible and self-paced, but you do have access to experts to ask questions if you feel that you need to. So if you want to accelerate your college career and maybe get a degree really fast, head on over to study.com and use the code ITGirls for 30% off your first 3 months. Okay, so let's get into it. Back in January, I think, is when I graduated, and we talked about my experience doing a bunch of things with school, out of school, jobs, things like that. And around April, I decided that I was going to go back to school for my master's degree. And pretty easy decision, honestly. It was like, I just got out of school. It's not that big of a deal if I jump back in there. They send you like an email, kind of nudging you to make the right choice. And so I was like, that makes sense. Like, I will go back, because why not just do it right now? Why wait till later? Just do it now when you're kind of still in that school mode. So I did. I decided I was going to go back for the master's degree in IT project management at WGU. And it was a very easy process. It was the same situation. You have an enrollment counselor. You talk to them for like a half a second. Not going to lie, she wasn't as good as my first enrollment counselor. Praise to her. But fine. It was fine. Counselor. She called me like an hour after I had submitted the application. Honestly, it was so quick, such a quick turnaround. But she called me, I set everything up and did all the things so that I could start on the 1st of April. Because I must have done this in March, actually, then I guess, to make it start in April. And once that happened, once everything was set, because I didn't have to do anything this time, they had everything already since I had gotten my Bachelor of Science with them for software development. So you don't have to do anything. The only thing that I did do, which I've mentioned this, I think last video, definitely not last week, but like last video, where I talked about going and applying for scholarships and things like that. So I did that immediately. That was the only thing that I had to do, or didn't even have to do, but just decided to do. And went and applied for the master's scholarship, because there's not that many that you can apply for as a master's person, but I applied for the ones that were available, and called it a day. That was it. It wasn't that big of a deal. So let's just do a little recap of what WGU is. I'm not going to go really in depth into it or anything, because I've already done that. If you want to check that video out to get more of a cohesive overview of what the school is. Basically, we're just going to sum it up here. It's an affordable college. You go there because you want to make your learning easier. You can accelerate, you can pay less. It's a good deal. So that's what it is, and that's what I signed up for this time around. And for the program, IT Project Management, which I was doing for this degree, it encompassed 10 courses. So you had 10 courses, which equated to roughly, so let's look at what classes I have to take. The classes in the order in which they were provided. So looking at my degree plan right here, I needed to take technical communication for 3 CUs, information technology management for 3 CUs, power, influence, and leadership for 3 CUs, technological globalization for 3, project management for 4, current and emerging technology for 3, IT sourcing and development in a global economy for 2, financial management for IT professionals for 2, managing technology operations and innovation, and the capstone. So those were the 10 classes I had to take with a total of 30 competency units. Holy crap. Did I get that wrong? It was not like 70 or 80. It was 30. But, close enough. All right, so that is what I had to do. And basically, my thought process this time was slightly different. Because, as I've told you guys before, like I had a very clear goal. I had a clear meaning of why I was doing the thing that I was doing and what I wanted to get from that. But basically doing my Bachelor's of Science degree, which I've mentioned before. I was looking to, I knew I had a limited window. I knew people were going to eventually be smarter than I was and be like, oh my God, I want to get into this thing. This is great. How can I be a part of technology and whatever? So I knew that I had a very small window, and I knew that I wanted to be in the industry, and I wanted to just learn how to develop things and have stuff that I wanted to make. There's a reason technology moves so quickly, and there's a reason that you need to be quick within it. So that was my mindset at the time when I figured out that this might be a good place for me to be. So going to school the first round, very, very clear goals. This time around, I knew that it was 10 classes and not that many classes. So I was like, all right, this will be easy enough to knock out in one term. This, if I set my mind to it, I did so many, I was like, I did so many in the first term before. Clearly, this is going to be fairly simple as well. And so that was it. I just kind of thought like, I'll probably do this in one term and that'll be cool. That was it. I didn't really have too much of a thought process. I thought maybe I'll make a video about it. And that was it. That was my thought process on doing this. So for this one, I just didn't have that same amount of pressure because I wasn't working with my own perceived thing of like, people are going to want to get into tech and they're going to want to do this. Like, I don't think a lot of people want to get into like IT project management. I mean, they might, I don't know, but I don't necessarily think that that's their main MO here. So I did think that I just, as a personality trait, I just like to do things in a quick manner a lot of the time. So I figured I just would maintain the same stamina in that way. But so anyways, time comes, rolls around, we start, I get a new mentor. You guys know I loved my mentors before. And so this time I was not disappointed. I got an amazing mentor again. I was just talking to him the other day, honestly, and he was saying, because usually he calls me every other week. That's the thing that we've set up, is I talk to him every other week. And he was just saying, he's like, you're the only one who takes the full 15 minutes. And I was like, I'm going to take that as a compliment because why would you not want to take the full 15? And he was like, actually, yeah. He was like, it really is a compliment. He's like, we always find stuff to talk about. It's really chill and everything. And I was like, I appreciate that, So yeah, I got a really cool mentor again. I think that it's really lucky that has happened so often. But in terms of course instructors, so let's break it down there. Let's start with that. That'll be like the place we start, because this is where things change a lot. With my bachelor's degree, course instructors were kind of all over the place, but they were there to help you. Like, if you bug them enough, honestly, they'll start to give you the answers, and they'll, you may or may not want the explanations. I did. I wanted to know why this was the answer in contrast to what I was trying to do. Like if I was doing some weird coding thing and, maybe I had, the code wasn't dry. Like maybe I had a couple of different things going on that were essentially the same thing. And so they would be like, what, why are you doing this? But whatever, just do it this way, because they don't, when your code, okay, let me condense this into a nugget. The first thing you're going to learn when you get out into the real world is that understanding bad code is hard. It's just like, it's really difficult to figure out what someone else was trying to do or like thinking if they've done the same thing in several different places. They haven't commented the code. It's wonky, like all over the place, whatever. Like reading other people's code is really difficult a lot of the time. So what I did not realize at the time going to school, I just thought you're a developer, you've been in development, right? You know, why can't you figure out what's wrong with my code? And it's just like, girl, your code just might be real bad and people can't figure out what the problem is here because it's just so all over the place. So here now, so basically at the end of the day, they would just give you the answer a lot of the times. They'd just be like, here, like, just do this, because then they can just tell you a thing to do that would fix stuff. Like just delete whatever this is, the whole class essentially, and then just make something else that makes more sense here. Because that's easier to do than trying to figure out the 9 to 17 to 20, whatever amount of times somebody has messed up their code, right? But I always wanted to understand why my thing was wrong, because at the end of the day, the way that your brain is functioning is going to determine whether or not you're going to be a decent programmer or a decent developer, decent engineer. And so that was always my thing, is I wanted to understand. But like I said, it's kind of difficult for, essentially random people to come look at your code without any sort of background or context and figure out what you did wrong, especially when you don't know what you did wrong. It's like, if you have no idea, like the area that your problem lies in, so that you guys, two brains are better than one, and you can try and help pinpoint stuff sometimes. But when you're new and you're just kind of like flying off the cuff and trying to figure things out, you don't know where to look to find the problems. So that's the difference here. So you had people who were willing to just give you answers, but then maybe sometimes you want to understand it, and that's a lot more difficult to explain, because as the instructor, even sometimes you can't figure out where the problem is because the student doesn't know what they did. But in the master's program, in the master's program, it's a little bit worse to a certain extent, because my advice of talking to your instructors, kind of like giving them a call, seeing how you can do stuff beforehand, doesn't really work the same in the master's program. It's really more of a you do you, boo, and hopefully it works for you. Like, you're really kind of left to your own devices, which is fine. But at the same time, I still don't want to spend so much time reading unlimited amounts of text for no real reason. Like, if I don't need to know everything and I can kind of just pinpoint the things that I need to know, I like to work better that way. Not everything is enjoyable. It's not like this is some brilliant work of fiction where I'm enjoying all the things that I'm reading. This is just educational literature, which is very dry a lot of the time. So that is the first huge difference that will be between your bachelor's of science or bachelor's degree and your master's degree at WGU specifically. The instructor level of involvement will decrease exponentially. So I learned that very, very quickly on. Secondarily, in this program specifically, so previously, you did a lot of coding. It was a lot, well, I don't want to say you did a lot of coding. In the end, you did a lot of coding. You did mostly a lot of tests in the bachelor's degree. In the master's degree, you do like 2 tests, and everything else is written. It's written papers, so many of them, and a lot of which, because that's not what, like, I come from a management background, but not a project management background. Or should I say, I come from a management background, but not a paper writing project management background. And so this was writing a lot of white papers, writing a lot of recommendations, writing a lot of proposals, things like that had to do with taking a specific project or a specific something, typically a full project, but it could just be like a product, and trying to write all these papers regarding it. And just the information that's included in that can be fairly different than just talking about regular management. Like, you managing people is different than managing products and managing programs and things like that. So that was a big difference for me to learn from having to just be able to talk to people and communicate ideas and communicate, you know, needs to various parties. It's like, now you need to be able to communicate metrics, and you need to be able to communicate, and not even metrics in like the normal way, like sales things. Like, I'm used to talking in sales functions, like, this is your, you know, your basic ROI, this is this, like very basic metrics that you kind of just need to equate to profitability. These ones are a little bit more in depth for some of the courses. So specifically, as you guys may remember, if you've watched this channel before, I made a video about, can I do this in 12 hours, where I was doing my financial management for IT professionals course. That course was bananas. So that got returned, and I had to resubmit that task, I think 3 times for that first task that was due. And then I had to redo the video portion, because there's a second task that's included in it, twice. But it was but only because for the video portion, like, you had to make it unprivated or something like that. Like, it was a very small issue with the video thing, and I just had to resubmit it because I had kept it private somehow, but it was supposed to be unprivated or something. But for the actual task in and of itself, like, you're basically doing accountant work. And we all know I've never been great at math. It's definitely been a thing. Like, I will tell you guys right now, I knew in 3rd grade this was not going to be the thing that I bragged to my friends and family about, me being good at math. Like, because we had to do, I don't know if you guys ever had to do this, but we had to do like multiplication tables tests. Like, you would do 1 up to 10. You would do each one was a test, like 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, all those. And then we started with a cone of an ice cream cone. We had like a little paper, each of us, and you would get a cone for like the 1 tables. And then if you passed the 2 times tables, you would get like a scoop of ice cream, and you got a different scoop of ice cream all the way up to 10. And I knew at about, you know, 3x, I'm gonna be real weird with y'all, like, I was like, not it, this is not it. And so, but I mean, I passed, you know, I definitely passed, but I just remember thinking that and reading a clock were really difficult for me in school. Those were 2 things that did not come naturally and that I had to work at. So I've always known, probably not the thing that's going to be what I love in life. Okay, so let's talk about whether or not a WGU degree is, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Credible. Credible is a good word. So a lot of times people talk about WGU and they think that, oh, that degree is like worthless, that college, you can go through it too quickly. So that's not a real degree, because you didn't spend 4 years in school, 8 years in school, 6 years in school, whatever, getting that degree. And here's the thing. I can tell you personally, I've not had 1 iota of issue with anybody telling me whether or not that degree was a real degree, a good degree, anything. They see that I have a degree in this field, and they want to see me. I mean, it came with a lot of certifications as well, so that's always been a plus. Having a master's degree that comes essentially right after my bachelor's degree, so getting my bachelor's degree finished at, I got it finished in December. That's when my term ended of last year, and so I technically received my diploma, I think in January or February is when I actually got the diploma for it. And then starting a master's program immediately after, because sometimes on different applications they'll ask, like, when did you start your degree, when did you finish, and then they'll want to know, like, when you started your next degree, when you finished it. And so there's like a time chunk there. where it literally shows how quickly you've gotten through degrees. It doesn't happen all the time. Honestly, there's a lot of job applications where it's just like, do you have a degree? You know, what year did you get your degree? Things like that. And either way, to me, it doesn't play a part. Like, I don't give a damn, so you shouldn't give a damn. But some people think that that makes it a lesser degree because you can get it quicker. You learn the same things, more or less. You know, there's always going to be a difference in the level of education that you receive based on the quality of instructors that you get. And I would hope, honestly, I can't know this for sure because I didn't go to these other schools, but I would hope there is a difference between WGU and Princeton, or like WGU and Harvard. Like, I would hope there's a significant difference in the quality of education that you're receiving between these two schools. But at the same time, for the general job market, I don't think that it really matters. As long as you know how to do the tasks that are required of you, then whether or not you went to Princeton or WGU, it's not going to be that big of a deal. The only time that it really matters is when you are fresh out of college because you have no job experience. And if you are going for Fortune 500 or higher companies, that's the time that it really does matter. And that's the time, really, even then, connections matter more. So you need to probably know somebody, like your uncle knows somebody. You have somebody who you grew up with who knows somebody. Your fraternity knows somebody. Your sorority knows somebody. It's like, that's when it matters where you went to Princeton versus going to WGU. If you are just a normal person trying to make shit happen, then doesn't make a difference. So that's what I think about it. And like I said, I've never had any problems with anybody comparing the degree versus some other thing. Like, oh, you didn't go to Harvard. It's like, well, I don't know that many people who are trying to get this specific job that did. So does it even matter? And that's just what I'm thinking. But if you like I said, if you're trying to work at really big corporations, then yes, it can help because of the connections more so than anything. It's not necessarily going to be the fact that you went to Princeton or Harvard. Like, the name, the Ivy League name isn't, I think, going to be the thing that does it for you. It's going to be the fact that you know people who work there already, or you know somebody whose father or something works there already. That's what you go to those Ivy League schools for, the connections, not necessarily just the fact that you have the Ivy League name on your resume or whatever. But so that being said, for what it is, WGU is great. It's a great school. Like I said, you save money, you save time, then you get onto your life. Now, is it possible to get a degree in, like, and I'll say, is it possible to get a master's degree in one term? A couple weeks, couple months, a very short span of time? Absolutely. It is absolutely possible. Is it necessary? No. Is it, does it make you an expert? Maybe. Like, it could. It depends on a lot of factors. But at the end of the day, whether or not you accelerate your degree is up to you. It really, like I said, for me personally, I didn't really have any reason to really accelerate this specific degree because I wasn't, aside from just having a kind of competitive nature, it's like I didn't need to do this in this specific amount of time. And that's one of the things that you guys, you have to decide for yourself whether or not it's worth it for you to kind of ignore everything else so that you can finish this one task. And for me personally, as you guys can see, there were a lot of times where I wasn't really taking this degree very seriously. Like, it was only 10 classes, and for the first couple months or so, like I did the things. I focused a little bit in the very beginning, and then kind of towards the second, third month, I was just like, I got other things to do. I was working and stuff like that, so it wasn't really like that high of a priority for me. But at the same time, I decided, I was like, kind of like halfway through, like I was like, ah, I'll finish this in this term. So I kind of buckled down a little bit, and I was like, I'll finish this in this term. And I got through about 7 courses. So I got through about 7 courses about halfway through. And then I got a call. Okay, so I just got off the phone with my family on a family Zoom, which we typically have been doing on like happier moments for the past 2 years. But it looks like I'm gonna have to fly out to North Carolina to help with a situation that has been progressing. So yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do, and see how we can help. Hopefully it'll be helpful for me to be there. So I'll see if I can take you guys along with me, because I think it's important to see, I think it's just important to see real life. So yeah, see if I can take you guys along too. Maybe you guys will help me through this. Maybe that's what'll happen here. Yeah. So my aunt had been diagnosed with cancer in, I believe it was 2017, 2018. And, that was a shock. That was definitely shocking, because it's just like you don't really ever think that you're going to hear that. And, but we all, I typically keep a very positive outlook on a lot of things, and definitely thought she was going to beat it. Like, we're setting her up and made sure that everything was going to go well. Got her like shirts for the end of the treatment and everything, because there's treatment and everything these days. So assumed that was going to be the case. And she went for treatment, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, because that's not what this is about. But I just want to say your health is your number one priority. No matter what is going on, always make your health your number one priority. And there's a thing sometimes where, because this has happened to me before, where doctors won't listen to you, and they don't think that you know what's going on with your own body, or they don't think that you're old enough to tell them, or like you're articulate enough or something. I don't know. They look down on the patient telling them what is wrong sometimes. And I know that they did that with her a fair amount, and I am incredibly angry about it. My aunt is the kindest person that you would ever hope to meet in your absolute total life. That is like, she's friendly to everybody, knows everybody. Nobody has a bad thing to say about her ever. So, and my mom says, obviously growing up, she knows her differently, and she says, she wasn't always like that, but now I'm like, she would allow people to tell her certain things, or, not speak up for herself as much as I would like for her to speak up for herself, which I would, I always tell her, like, I will speak up for you. And I tell my grandma this too. It's just like, I will be there for you to yell at whoever you need me to yell at, any time of day, any time of night. I will be there to tell people where to go. So, but I wasn't there for a lot of the things, because they live in a different state. So I got this call. Somebody should go. So there was a lot of back and forth saying somebody should go stay with her to kind of take care of her and watch her. So I said I would do it. And during that time period, when we were kind of trying to figure things out, she decided that she wanted to go home to my grandma and grandpa's and be there, because that's what made her happy, And things rapidly changed. So I adore my grandma, and I was like, I'm going to go visit, and I'm going to stay with you guys and help out however I can help out. So that's what I did. And I had a couple months left of my term, and it just didn't matter. It just didn't matter anymore, to be completely honest. And I had work, but luckily I work remotely, so I can work from anywhere. But I went there and I cooked for them, and I cooked and I cleaned and I told jokes and um, I drove my grandma back and forth to wherever she needed to go, whatever she needed to do, and I hung out with my grandpa. And my aunt didn't make it, and that was the most traumatic thing that I've ever had to go through, to be there for that. And it put, like, I did everything that I needed to do. I still went to work. I still did all the things that were expected. But none of anything else mattered, really, at that point in time. So it's also why I kind of got really sporadic in YouTube. FYI, it's just a lot of things were going on. So that being the case, after everything happened, and after everything was said and done, I had some days and whatnot to process things, and I decided, because like I said, I still had the 7 classes done, 7 courses all done, because, honestly, like I said, I fritted my time around because I just didn't really, it wasn't that big of a priority to finish within a week or 2 weeks or whatever for the degree. It was just like, I'll get it done. I have a full 6 months. There's not going to be a huge difference between me finishing it in the 12 days or in the 2 weeks versus the full 6 months. Like, the term I was already paid for. It's still 6 months worth of term. So let me just take whatever time I want. And then this happened, and it had no time left, pretty much. I got back, I think maybe like a week or 2 before my term ended. And then I was like, okay, I should work, because that's the way that I process things. That's the way that I deal with stuff. I just think that I should work. So I got another class done, and I got 8 classes done, and I was planning on getting an extension, because you can get an extension for an extra month to finish out your last courses. However, I didn't realize that you had to be starting your capstone, because you can only get an extension for 1 class. So I could either get an extension for my 9th course, or just go into the next term. So I decided to just go into the next term, because that was what was right for me at that point in time. And as much as I was like, I could definitely do this in 1 term. I just decided to live my life for that 1 term. And then for the parts that were not great, I decided to give my attention to those parts. And then when they were done, I went back to work, and I went back to school, and I went back to everything that I was doing, and just didn't have enough time then to complete everything. Because again, this is all new for me. All the different sorts of documentation and math that I had to do. So I got through 8 courses that first term, and like I said, planned on having an extension, but then just had to take the 2 last courses during the second term. So it was a term and some extra. But my point being here, because that's the end of the story. That's the end of me. Can I get my master's in 1 term? You definitely can do it. It's really, really it's really easy to do if you just focus on it. I was not focused because it wasn't a priority for me at this point in time. But had it been a priority for me, I definitely would have put it in the forefront and gotten it done real quick, just like the other degrees. Like, you just go through it as quickly as you need to. Some pointers, because these are things that I did that really did make them go quickly. Because even though I took a fair amount of time getting through a lot of the classes, when I actually did focus on the classes, it only took like 4 days for most of them. It wasn't really that that long at all, except for, like I said, the one specific one, that financial management class, or finances for IT management, whatever that class is called. Worst class ever. But everything else was pretty simple. Audiobooks, your best friend, because if you're going straight from your bachelor's of science to your master's degree, you want to use audiobooks so that you can just strain your eyes less. You're working all day, you've just come from reading things all day. A lot of the books are available on Hoopla, which is, at least for me, I don't know if Hoopla is anywhere else. Let me know if you guys have heard of Hoopla. But it is the public library audiobook service and movie service. Like, you can get movies, books, all sorts of different things on Hoopla. But a lot of the books that you're required to read for certain classes, you can find on there for free. And you can do the audiobook version, which if you do the audiobook version through the links that the school will provide you, they're awful. Like, I don't know who was reading these things, but they're the worst. So feel free to use like real readers on Hoopla. Also, I've done a video where I've done a couple of different websites that you can use that are very helpful for passing your courses quickly, which I will link up here in case you want to utilize those. Again, communication with your mentor is going to be super important, just because your mentor is going to be the person who keeps you motivated, and not only that, helps you determine the chronological order of the courses you're going to take, and like if you're better at something and you want to go this way, or you're not, you want to do another thing. It's going to be the same though. Like, if you feel like you want to take something, you can just let them know and they'll be like, oh, okay, here's that course instead. You don't have to take this one before that one. I did that a lot with the test taking courses, because I just wanted to get the tests out of the way. So I did the tests first and then did most of the writing courses after that. Additional people to be in contact with, still your course instructors. Like I said, again, they are a little less involved this time around, but still send that first email or that first call just to ask them if there's something that they can help you with, just so you know where to focus, because some people are a little involved if you ask them. So here, they do send out emails a lot of the time when you first join the course. They'll send out like some sort of helpful email. Sometimes they're not helpful because they're outdated, or like it just doesn't make the most amount of sense to you specifically. So they most of them do that. I will say like 90% of them do that, but secondarily, I would suggest calling them. And sometimes even I learned this, especially for that financial management course, that my specific instructor did things in a way that I didn't care for. And I spoke to a different instructor, and I liked that instructor better. So as my paper got returned, instead of talking to this other guy who I didn't love, I decided to talk to another person who I did enjoy a lot better. And we worked a lot more cohesively. And he was just like, oh, okay, you know, this is what this is, and blah, blah, blah. Made things a lot smoother. Is a master's degree worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth the extra couple grand? Maybe. Honestly, it's one of those things where if my main goal was to work at a corporation for the rest of my life, no, I would say it would not be worth it in the least. Because these are a lot of the things that you can just learn on the job. A lot of this stuff is like, once you get to different levels, you'll just have to do these things. However, if you have different goals, if you have more entrepreneurial goals, then I think that it's definitely worth it, because you're not going to have someone to teach you these things. You know, you're not going to be able to instinctively know, these are things that I need to do to move my business forward. These are things that should come with the projects or the products that I'm producing. You know, this is how I should manage this. This is how I should get these different things done according to industry standard. And because basically you're essentially oblivious to how this stuff would run if you haven't gotten to that point yet in your actual career. So for me, it's worth it in that respect, just because, like I said, my goals are not to be at a company forever. So yes, but again, if your goal is to be at a company, maybe not. Maybe you'll just learn these things and you will have no need to go to a school for it. At the end of the day, though, a lot of companies will put stock into you having a master's degree. So you get a higher promotion, a bigger raise, something to go along with that. And or maybe even if you're entry level as a, project manager somewhere, then having this information will make you more official sounding. You'll be able to speak with the jargon. You'll be able to, hang with the big dogs, as they say. And in that respect, it would be useful. So there are a lot of different variables that come into play when determining whether or not a degree would be useful in your specific case. However, I highly recommend learning. You can never go wrong with learning if you've just got extra time, if you've got just an insatiable palate for knowledge, then I recommend getting a degree, because why not? Like, if you're going to learn something, might as well get a degree at the same time, like, because you want to learn about marine biology, or you want to learn about security, or you want to learn about, I don't know, whatever you have an interest in. I like to get something out of that. Like, if I'm learning snowboarding, I want to buy the snowboard because I want to have a snowboard after that. Like, after I've learned everything, I don't want to have to give back my snowboard and have nothing to show for it, So that's just the type of person that I am. But yeah, I hope you guys have found this useful. If you did, feel free to give it a like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. And thank you to study.com for sponsoring us. Okay, bye.